Hello everyone, this is Mike here from Journal Mode. I'm here to do my 1000 subscriber special where I do a Q&A based on questions that you guys have submitted. Now when I hit 1000 subscribers, I did do a quick video to say thank you, but also ask for a load of questions for this Q&A. I got 6, so I'm going to use those for this Q&A. I've also looked at my community posts and it turns out quite a few questions have come in through there as well. I'm also going to throw in a few questions as well that I thought of that might be helpful to answer this Q&A. Now, I'm filming this in my house in a completely different location because I was going to film this on the beach because it'll be a nice sunny backdrop with nice lighting, nice vibes and everything. Instead, it's absolutely dreadful outside. It was sunny this morning and I spent it trying to get Oasis tickets. I'll go on to that in a moment. And it was lovely and sunny. Come 12 o'clock, when I got the tickets and I thought I'll have some lunch and then nip out my camera, it just turned grey and it doesn't look great. So not only did I miss a great filming opportunity, I had to waste 3 hours getting Oasis tickets. That was fun. So I rolled out of bed and at 8:30 I went on Gigs on Tours. I had my iPad, my work laptop, my personal laptop, my phone, and I had it all ready for 9 o'clock. I was already joining the queue. Ticketmaster didn't let me join the queue, which was fun. So I had to just sit there, eat my Shreddies, and just wait for 9 o'clock. It got to 9 o'clock and nothing happened on Gigs and Tours. So I didn't know what was happening or if I was in an actual queue or not. Then Ticketmaster was refusing to load for me on my laptop and all my devices, so I was basically in a lurch until Sunday at 9:30. I was in the queue and I joined the queue at what was it? Had 220,000 people in front of me. Sat and waited. I tried to do housework around it, kept looking over my laptop screens, refreshing them, and they weren't loading. Then the sites went down, and that was dreadful. And I got the feeling that I wasn't going to get Oasis tickets, and 15 years of waiting for Oasis to finally reform would all be for nothing because I can go watch them, and no one could by the sounds of it. It was really confusing. There was people online saying, does Gigs and Tours actually exist? They definitely do. I bought Foo Fighters stickers through them last year. But they were also asking, has anyone actually got tickets? And then like 22 people managed to get tickets through Gigs and Tours. So I was sat there wondering why the hell I wasted all my time on this website. Then I just left it. I then refreshed all the web pages that I had the Gigs and Tours on, and they suddenly went back to the loading screen where the please be patient screen. So I went, oh, okay, cool. So I left it. I left it there and I did some housework. Then I went back and looked at my laptop just to check on things. And blooming Microsoft Edge, you've come up trumps here. I never use Microsoft Edge unless I accidentally click on it on my taskbar. But with Microsoft Edge, it was the only window that actually had Gigs and Tours on that then went onto the seats. And I was able to buy tickets. My word. Thank you, Bill Gates. So after 3.5 hours, I finally managed to get tickets to Oasis at Wembley next summer. And that's how I spent my morning. But the real reason why you're watching this is my Q&A video. Now, I've sorted this in terms of questions that make chronological order based on what you've asked me. So I'm going to go through them now. Cherry Snoop 1239. I will be saying your usernames and some of them I will probably mispronounce. How did you get into journalism? So I got into journalism because I was just fascinated about the wider world, news, politics, current affairs, and really telling people stories. That was what I was really passionate about when I was a teenager, and I wanted to get on that really. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write the features. I wanted to work locally and then go on to a national paper and see how it went really. So I did a lot of blogging, a lot of creative writing, watched a lot of TV and just wrote on it. Tried to do comedy bits on it, which really weren't that funny, if I'm being honest with you. I just continued, kept writing. I got my GCSEs, got my A-levels, could have done a bit better in both to be fair, but I'm not really good at exams. And then I went to university to study journalism and media and cultural studies. And that was fun because of two reasons. One, it wasn't credited by the NCTJ, which is the big journalism body in the UK. And two, I remember pretty much every guest lecturer we had, they all said it's going to be really difficult to get a journalism job. So I thought, I'm going to prove you wrong. Got a 2-1, and then I went into the big wide world, tried to get a journalism job, and I found out that it was actually really difficult to get a job. So in the meantime, I still was doing like football writing and stuff. I actually wanted to be a football writer and maybe into TV, but mainly football because I love football. I found that getting a football writing gig was actually really difficult. So instead, I just thought I'd be a general reporter, current affairs reporter. So that broadens it. So then I can basically do that for 18 months, for example, get seniors, get qualifications, then I can move into a specialism or something. Or if there's an opening, I would go into it. That didn't quite happen because I just literally, while I was working around, working at a call centre, PC World and stuff, I was just doing a load of work experience and creative writing. And then I finally got my full-time journalism job in Somerset. I initially didn't get the job. I only got offered a job, I think, 2 weeks after the interview, I think. And that was my first trainee reporter role, and the rest is history. So I got into journalism really through just self-interest. I wanted to tell people stories, and really just I wanted to just do something creative. And it's a really, on a great day, it's a really fulfilling job, and no days are the same really, which is really important. I think in any job to be like that, not challenging, but the right side of challenging, and feel like you're making a difference. I cannot pronounce your name, but I know who you are. He says, I really wanted to be a journalist at school, but then it was explained to me you had to work for next to nothing at a local paper and then make your way up to international reporting. I wanted to do Warzone. I wonder if it's still like that. Is it worse or better? I was put off by the unrewarded grind at the outset. Very good question. Very good question there, mate. So it's a lot to unpack there. So really the thing is, it is sort of true. So I think the pay's slightly got better thanks to union strikes and just campaigns and all that. But I think that if you want to become a journalist, you have to start with your local paper where you just start as a trainee reporter and then you just get thrown whatever to do. And you just ride the wave of what your editors want you to write. So that could be any old guff. But then after a year or so, you'll probably start writing the stuff you actually want to write about. So strong community features or court reports or crime reporting or financial stuff, whatever your niche is, whatever you enjoy, and as long as it's got a readership, whether it be online or in a paper, crack on with it. It's brilliant. So I think it's still the case. I mean, you sort of do your qualifications at trainee level, which would most likely be a local paper, and then you would get your senior qualifications, and then that would mean that you can just broaden your career. In and around that, you can then go and work for a national. But all the national is basically work in London. So if you don't work in London and you say, for example, you will live all the way in Falmouth or Grimsby or whatever, and you want to work for like the Times or the Guardian or the Mirror, for example, you've got to move to London. It's just how it is, and it's so annoying. I've lost many opportunities by the fact that I would love to work for a national news outlet directly, but I couldn't because they all wanted me to work and live in London. And for me personally, I've got a wife. I live in the southwest. We're moving within our area, but we're not going to move away from countryside and beaches and lovely scenery to a suburb of London where we have no garden. Our cats probably get killed by foxes, and be miserable and pay, what was it, like $2,000 a week on rent or something. And yeah, there is the grind, but I think it is appreciated by someone. I think journalism is one of those jobs where you can grind out stories, and sometimes it's difficult to see whether or not it's appreciated or not. I think it's internally appreciated, but I think it'll be really appreciated if you do like a massive expose or a great community feature or a great court case that brings together a community and they thank you for your reporting. So yeah. John NZ Boy, so I guess you're from New Zealand. What elements of journalism do you enjoy the most and least enjoy, e.g., research, interviewing, in dealing with PR teams, etc.? Really interesting question, actually. So I've been in journalism for 7 years, and I'd say to start with the most. So I like researching about topics. So if something new's coming to the area, I like to research it, or if it's a local issue with, or health issue, I do a lot of research into that. So I understand it, and then I have to basically convey that to readers who probably have no idea what that means. And I also really enjoy interviewing people. It's a double-edged sword, really, because when your phone rings, you could either have a great exclusive story, someone who's happy to give you everything, or you just be on the other end of a complaint, or just someone who's just really moaning about something that should be a story, but in all fairness, isn't. But I love meeting people and interviewing people and just hearing their side of the story, bringing their words to life. I think that the big thing recently has been, obviously in the last 12 months, was the Bibby Stocker, for example. I really, in a way, enjoyed reporting on that because I was interested in it, because I'm a local resident and there's a lot of concerns locally. I was concerned. I did not know what was going on, and I was asking those questions not only as a resident but also as a local reporter. I enjoy just interviewing people and just hearing them, really. I think those are probably the most favourite bits of journalism I enjoy. And also maybe when stories are well read. I mean, the easiest one is when you do a story and it goes online and it gets tens of thousands of page views. A bit like with YouTube, to be fair. You do get a bit of a kick out of it because it's a widely read story and it's been well received, thanks to it just going absolutely nuts on Google search traffic, or angry people in local newspapers shared the story, which is always really helpful. Or it's just gone nuts on Reddit or on social media, and it's really helpful. It's really great. And but the rewarding thing about it is, as long as you've been able to accurately tell that person's story. What do I least enjoy about journalism? I would say the grind of it some days. I think one job I had was I felt like I was just churning out copy and I wasn't entirely enjoying it. And it felt like it was only down to me to do it. No one else was going to be able to do it because there was little to no one available to do it because of staffing issues or because people were any experience, whatever. So there was a lot of pressure on me and I just didn't really enjoy it as much. And then you do great work and then it's the next day you got to do it again, and then a few months time it's not really appreciated by your bosses higher up, and because they did a redundancy run. I was put under risk of redundancy 3 times last year and that was bad. That was the other thing I least enjoy about journalism, that that sometimes you do great work but that one day it might not be for anything, and that's soul destroying, I guess. I would say sometimes press officers can be really helpful, but when that they say, oh, this isn't a story, and it's something it's clearly a big story, and that's why they're trying to suppress it and don't want it to go out. So sometimes dealing with press officers and you give them deadlines and they just don't meet it, or they ask for extension. My favourite one is you give them an extension for like a Friday afternoon and then they try and extend it into first thing Monday morning, and you're like, yeah, but I've given you a deadline and you've not met it. So it's just difficult. I do most enjoy meeting other journalists, actually, whether it be in the newsroom or at events or breaking news instance, or like the other month with the election count, I met the team at the Dorset Echo, runner for Sky News, ITV, BBC, all there covering the election counts. I really enjoyed that because there was a bit of calamari. That's calamari. I thought I was going to say calamari. Oh, for goodness sake! I like the togetherness. Everyone's together and they all just want to just do the best and want to help each other out, and there's no like rivalries really. So yeah, I quite enjoy that, to be fair. Here's another one. I cannot pronounce your name, but you said, what is the most interesting story you have covered? Right, let's put that down. The most interesting story I've covered like loads of really interesting stories. I mean, I keep saying about the Bibby Stockholm. I mean, I did a video about that because I was genuinely interested in it and the whole logistics, the finances, the stories of people on board, the local reaction, and just how it was a massive waste of money. And I was genuinely interested about that. It's always amazing when, in a way, when a national issue comes to your doorstep. It's not been amazing in a way that there's been a lot of racism and obviously there's been a death on board. And yeah, and really in the case, it's not a positive. It's quite grim if you think about it. So yeah, so that was quite an interesting thing to cover. I quite liked most interesting stories are probably court cases. I've covered quite a lot of Crown Court trials, magistrate court trials. I really enjoy covering court cases and especially trials. I don't get to do that much anymore. Found really interesting, the murder of Thomas Roberts, covering that. That was a case where you had Abdul Rahimzai, probably said his name wrong, sorry, but he was stand accused that he murdered Thomas Roberts. He stabbed him twice over an argument about an e-scooter, and he was trying to determine whether or not he meant to do it, like it was manslaughter, or he intentionally meant to do it, i.e. murder. So for 2-3 weeks I sat watching a court case, and you try and get a feel of the case and if it's going to go guilty or not guilty, and do you actually believe what the defence is saying or what the prosecution says, really. And you just hear all these narratives, you hear all the evidence, you see the CCTV, you see the police footage, and you try and work out yourself. And I find them quite interesting. And you get to the point when when the jury go away to deliberate and come through a decision. It's really interesting to see whether or not which way they're gonna go. And you think in your head he's probably guilty, but you don't let it creep into your reporting, of course. And in that case, he was found guilty of murder, and then obviously all the stuff came about, the murders in Serbia, his actual age, and this and that, and obviously there was a load of stuff in the Home Office, and GB News got involved, etc., etc. So yeah, I mean those sort of cases are quite interesting, but trials are quite interesting, quite like those. I always like covering like human interest stories or community stories. So one big one that comes to mind is I've interviewed a woman who'd worked for KFC in Taunton, Somerset for more than 40 years, and I found that absolutely fascinating because one, she was a bit of a cult hero. Two, why the hell is she working at KFC for 40 odd years? And three, why is she still there? And I had to work with the press team at KFC to interview her, to get a load of photos, basically arrange all of that, and just interview her and her colleagues and just sort of get a flavour of who she is and why she's so, she loves chicken so much, basically. I love those guys kind of stories, quite interesting, to be fair. I do like them, and it was one of the most read stories, I remember, for when I worked in Somerset, and that got picked up by all the nationals as well. And that you get a bit of buzz off that as well, because it's great that you've created a great story and it's well read not only locally but people want to read it all across the country. It's really great. What's the story you didn't get to cover but wish you did? Now that's a really good question. I've really ummed and ahed about it. Up until this summer I probably would have been covering a general election. I've never covered a general election count or been on the campaign trail, but I really enjoyed covering the general election. That's something I've not had the chance to do it because 2017 I wasn't working in journalism. I started just after that election. 2019 I was on a day off and I wasn't required to go to a polling station or a election count. So this time around I had the opportunity to go and cover a general election count in Dorset, and I really enjoyed it, actually, and weirdly. Well, I think for the full time run, yeah. I mean, at the ending of the Bib Stockholm, I haven't been doing local stuff on my doorstep for this year, really. So I haven't been able to cover like the ending of the Bib Stockholm, but I have in a way with my YouTube video about the Bib Stockholm, which, by the way, please go and watch it because at the time of recording this video, it's only got 100 views on it, and I thought it would do a little bit better, but then again, I think it's because I put out way too. So what else? I think there's been some interesting like murder trials and in Dorset, and I wish I was able to cover, but I never got the chance to cover, unfortunately. Court cases, but there's other stories that your colleagues have covered because they were the ones that picked up the phone first, and they got some really good exclusives out of it. And you just you look at them then, but at the same time you say, they'll do a really good job. There's been some breaking news, yeah. There have been breaking news locally. I've wanted to go to see and cover, but they've always been covered by other people, which is fair enough, and they're in positions to do it, which is fair enough. And they all do brilliant jobs, and you only look at them with envy, really. So yeah, I don't think I really answered that question, to be fair. I can't really think of many stories off the top of my head that I wish I covered. In a way, I wish I covered the protests we had locally. We had a load of we had hundreds of people come to Wayne Seafront for the far right protests. I wish I covered that in a way, but I would have probably didn't have to do that freelance. And also, I didn't really want to get involved, if I'm being honest with you. I just thought it would be one of those things. I'd be there for hours. I'd be shouted at. Just be really ugly, and it was just awful. Instead of covering that, I went for a swim with my wife on the beach, and then had a McFlurry and went home. And yeah, that was quite fun. Sometimes it's great to miss out on stories because you miss out on awful stuff, but instead you get to do something nice instead. So yeah, and also I was on a Sunday as well, which is the day of rest, of course. So Barney asks, what software do you use to edit videos? I use a program called DaVinci Resolve, which is a free software which I had never heard of until last year. It was recommended to me because years ago I used to do a bit of casual film editing and video editing and put stuff on YouTube, and nothing like what I do now. But I just thought I'll just play around with it, and I used to use Sony Vegas. Now, Sony Vegas, I wanted to get back into using, but I then researched it, and basically everyone was saying, don't use Sony Vegas, use DaVinci Resolve. So I thought, well, it's free, let's go for it. And it's quite good, a bit complicated sometimes, and you have a vision of what you want to do, but then you do a tutorial about it, and then you realise what Fusion is, and then you think, I'm not really that bothered about it. Sometimes it can get annoying. I think when you go deeper into an edit and you've got so much on that file, it can take longer than it should do. There's sometimes where I like to call it the clip insert glitch. Very creative name. You would have a clip in your media pool that you want in a specific point, and you would select it, and then you hit the button in DaVinci Resolve and have it right where you want to put it. And then instead of going right where you want to put it, it goes all the way at the beginning of your timeline or at the end of your timeline. So then you go, no, that's not what I want to do. So you do it again. Same thing happens. So then you click on, all right, that's annoying. I'm going to have to do it again. So then you had to do a manual move where you basically had to highlight all of the stuff after the clip you want bit, and you drag it over. And then because there's so many tracks, sometimes you miss a little thing, like a little bit of text, and then that goes and ruins everything. I hate that so much, and it takes so much time, and it's just infuriating. I picked one question up ages ago. What do you think journalism will look like with the advent of AI in a not so distant future? So I was actually going to do a video about this, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's a really interesting question there again. AI is really used in the media industry. It's not clear in the mainstream media and prolific outlets if AI is used, and I somewhat think that's a bad idea. I think it's because people see AI as a bad thing, and they just think that a robot's written this story for you, which is half right, because sometimes you use AI to rewrite copy or you give it prompts. I use an AI with work, and it's really hit and miss, if I'm being honest with you. But I feedback any issues I have. How journalism will look with AI involved, I think it's really a case of it will help rewrite copy, and I think it will help newspapers in filing nibs, like the short stories you get, like the corners and columns and banners in newspapers. They will write copy for those bits, so that means that reporters only really had to focus on filling the main stories which are like 350 words, depending on the size of the paper, of course. But they would have to focus on just producing those sort of long reads and those actual feature articles. So I think it's a great time-saving tool. But AI in journalism is like a trainee reporter. They would file the copy, and you would look at the copy, and you would say, "That makes sense. That makes sense. That's a bit weird. Turn of phrase, change that," or just change the look of the article, and then you just then hit publish. That's the important thing with AI. I think it always needs to improve, but also that it's being monitored, the use of it. And I also think as well that audiences are quite aware if AI has been used. Yeah, I'm quite divided on AI. I think it's one of those things that it would help with shortages in the workforce, and you've got AI that can rewrite copy for you. So, but I've got a few quick questions that I'm going to add on to the end of this video just to pad it out a little bit more. And these questions that I thought of myself to ask myself. Very, very bad. What videos have you considered making but haven't? Quite a few. I actually talked about AI in the last question. I've made a video that, well, not made a video, but I filmed a video about ChatGPT asking me questions about journalism. And I thought it was a really interesting video concept. And I got into the edit, and the first thing I noticed was the lighting's really bad. I think I did a community post about it and how I looked like I was in the set of Dune, because I looked very tanned and very orange. So I looked at it and I thought, well, okay, that's fine. Let's just get over that. Then I got to the end of the first edit, which I call the rough edit. This is how I edit videos. And I just sat and watched it, and I thought, this is really long. Why is it so long? It's probably like this video. It's going to be really long, to be fair. And I was like, is this good? Will people watch it? How do I make it snappy? How do I make it funny? All these things I creatively think when I make a video. And I was just like, put it to the wayside. And then that was only in a year. Then I flew to America for a 2-week road trip. And since then, I have not touched it. It's probably a video I'll probably get back to making at one point. But will my opinions have changed since then? Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe I just film it all over again and see how it goes. Will you launch Patreon or something to support the channel? That is a very good question. Now, I have launched Patreon, but I need to set up membership tiers and source it out. But how I envision the Patreon being is I want all of my videos to go up there early, and then all of them to be up there ad-free. So you're basically paying a flat fee to watch all my videos, and you get to support me directly, and also you get some behind the scenes Q&A stuff, that sort of thing. And that'll be it. Some extras, I don't know, I really need to figure it out, but that's how I would do it. But I need to sit down and properly think about it. So yeah, I have launched Patreon. When I have sourced it, I will do a community post about it, or I've probably done the community post by it, depending on the time you watch this video. So yeah, that's the way of supporting me in the channel. What are your plans for the future of the channel? I've got a few video ideas I want to go through. I mean, the Q&A was definitely something I want to get out of the way, so to speak, and then I can focus on other stories. I've had a few video ideas that I've wanted to do, but I'm trying to see how do I make it so it's interesting. So on a community post, I did a poll about stories people might be interested in, and one of them was why does Saudi Arabia own this hotel? Now, that's something I'm genuinely interested in because I actually covered it as a reporter, and the future of it is really unclear. The clarification I think I'd like to make about it is that it's a Saudi Arabia hospitality firm. I thought it was the Saudi government who actually owned it, but it turns out it might not be that. But it's looking at that sort of thing and thinking, well, how do I make it interesting? How do I make it of a wider appeal? Because I find that hotel alone is quite lovely, but how would I make people beyond locally and internationally actually care about it, and what does it actually mean? There's other videos I'm really interested in, like the social media's obsession with crime, like true crime, the podcasts, commenting on court cases and attentive theories. We've seen this with the whole Lucy Letby trial, and how articles now come up which seem to doubt her crimes, even though it's following the trial. It's quite, well, I don't want to go into it right now, but yeah, so that sort of thing. I've wanted to do a video about those sort of things. I like it if people told me this is a video that would be really interesting. I've had one video suggested to me, it's something on the lines of council spending. Now, obviously, councils are in a really difficult financial position at the moment, but there's been a thing where they still spent millions on infrastructure projects. So people have gone, well, why are you still doing this when you're saying you're skint? And I find that really interesting because that's like ring fence money, which has been put aside to fund these projects, and they can't be cut because they're really important projects, but people don't really understand that. So that sort of thing. But I'm always interested in what people want me to cover, and I might find some stuff that might be of interest as well. But in terms of the state of the channel, I mean, it's monetized now, so I can actually make money off these videos, which is really good. I want to expand the audience. I want to maybe do live stuff. I want to be able to, speak to my audience a bit more, create like a community. Because I feel like I've got 1,000 subscribers, but I feel like I recognize a few faces, a few names, but not everyone. And I want to be able to like build a community and grow the channel. And who knows, one day this could be my full-time job. At this rate, it'll probably take me like 5-10 years for that to happen. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So that's the end of the Q&A video. I hope you've enjoyed it and got something from this. I don't know if it comes to the edit, if it's a case of I've rambled on for too long or I've just not really made much sense, but hopefully you've taken something about it. I'm going to drop some videos on the screen right now that you might be interested in based on your likes and dislikes on YouTube. So yeah, hopefully see you again here soon.